That's all right. I look like a absolute behemoth at the minute. I've got hair coming down over my eyes a little bit, as well as over my ears, so I look like discount BFG. And on that on that note, everyone, welcome to the Failcast. This is the we aren't just incompetent on the stream; we're incompetent off it too. Hey everyone, to another fantastic midweek episode. This time, episode of the Failcast. My name is Mr. Falkenberg Simon, and alongside me, as always, is our wildly hairy taco extraordinaire, Mr. Definitely Zero. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. It's because I'm fresh out of the shower. I wanted to look sort of, glistening like I've emerged from a mountain stream. Oh. And, it's kind of half work, but because I haven't gone back to the fancy setup yet, I'm still on, like, the PS4 camera. It looks washed out and shit, and my hair looks odd. But never mind. That's the least of my fucking problems. I do have a coconut and blueberry White Edition Red Bull, so that makes me happy. And we're at Austria, which is a track we both like, but you are superb at. And how good was Imola?
We have got we've chosen, whether we meant to or not, a great time to do a midweek stream whilst all of that emotion and energy and fantastic racing is fresh in the mind. So yeah, that's grand. I'm hoping my Austria form stays true, because I've been doing daily races on Race Room, and it's recently been going around Austria in an F4 car, and those things are slipperier than an MP being told you must tell the truth. So it's just like you push it one direction, it immediately squeezes out elsewhere. So hopefully I'll remember how to drive this game again.
Well, I would say a good 30% of this podcast is one or both of us trying to remember how to drive. As if we haven't been doing it for over a decade.
Regular feature.
How many times in the last sort of 12 months alone, I have, instead of releasing the clutch button and pressing the accelerator, I've released the accelerator and pressed the clutch button and just not moved off the line.
Glorious.
So, it's one of those things.
Let's try.
So, since I'm feeling a little bit cocky confident today, I am going to wait to go out until the track's rubbered in a little bit. Rubbered in. So I'm going on board with K-Mags, and I tell you what, why don't we, before we dive into the awesome race content we've got, you and I were whinging about the new game, and perhaps maybe we want to do that first.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
Because obviously Codemasters are now absorbed into the gaming behemoth that is Electronic Arts. And already I saw a news piece the other day saying, EA have increased the prices globally, in some countries like Russia by a huge amount. And before we went live, I checked the pre-order price for F1 2021, and as I was saying to you, there was always a pricing structure from Cody's. So the standard edition would be €59.99, and then the deluxe Schumacher Legends Edition, whatever they call it that year, would be $69.99. This year, the base game is $69.99, and the deluxe edition is $84.99. And we were discussing what's different. Why would you buy the deluxe edition? And there's two differences. You get a set of badges for your My Team, presumably the good ones. And you get access to the game 3 days early. That's €5 a day.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
I wonder how many days early all of those YouTuber streamers that we all know /love/hate, depending on where you sit on that spectrum, get it before you pay to get it early and have it all spoiled for you anyway.
Oh, that fucking Arava guy, he'll be on it in 2 weeks' time. And that's a practice I really wish they'd stop, because part of the fun is discovering.
Yes.
the new stuff, and I try and avoid the early access content from the big streamers, but sometimes it just pops up somewhere and it catches you off guard, or you see a news article saying, well, we saw this, and it's like, oh, fuck off, I wanted to find out that myself. So the prices have gone up. There's also story packs. Oh, Max Verstappen's lap's just been ruined by K-Mags, good job. And it's unclear yet whether stories are something you play through like a scenario, which would be shit, or if it's career mode content that enriches the career mode experience. Because obviously the voice actors are back. You've got Devon Twatler and the German bloke.
I didn't know if he was coming back. I'd not heard of it.
It sounds like, from the snippet of sound they played us, that there's some kind of politics, like Piranha Club sort of stuff, which the game has been severely lacking. But I'm wondering if it's just like scripted and it happens once. I don't trust them at all, and I also don't trust them not to overprice all the additional content. Wodge, hello mate, how are you? Thank you very much for dropping by. It's lovely as ever to cross paths with you. We're complaining about the new EA version of F1 2021 costing a fucking fortune. Are you out on track? Yes, you are. Let's go on board with you.
I'm just recovering from
I timed that immaculately.
You did indeed. I'd made a right boo-boo of it. So for me, the story mode stuff is really suspect after how the story mode was touted to be this amazing, huge thing last 2019's one. For it to only just drop off the radar as soon as you came out of F2, because that was the big new thing. And it was as if... and the same thing happened with my team and career mode for this game. It's as if they've all been developed separately and no one's actually thought about the join-up. And so my worry with story content packs and the great news that you can now do two-player co-op career mode is that actually it's all going to be fragmented out again. And so, like, none of the story content will work in my team. None of the my team benefits you can take into your career mode. Or like have the choice of one or the other, or like bits of both.
Yeah, that's the interesting question actually you've just raised. I hate to interrupt you there, but I wonder actually if we could form a Failcast F1 team.
That's what I'm hoping.
For co-op career mode.
Yeah.
But then again, it's a career mode, which implies you should be moving around and developing your car and, switching teams and so on.
Yeah, yeah. But it just feels weird that if you've put in all of that effort to go like one way round, that with a few tiny little tweaks, surely that should then become like a secondary thing that you can also do as well. But it just feels strange and odd and weird. And I don't trust them to not keep it all segmented in weird and awkward ways that you can't slice the content in nice ways. It's all kind of formulated for you. And I just have visions of their version of story mode being that fucking reporter telling us like, oh, you touched, I don't know, Mazepin around. What do you think now? And then it like some kind of weird Netflix interjection, whereas just like explosions everywhere. Nico Rosberg pops out in the corner. Is your career over? No.
I wish they'd put that in, to be honest. It would liven things up. Like an explosion at the end of the pit lane and Nico Rosberg just appears.
The other thing that's missing for me, and this is probably naughty for me to say, but because I don't watch it on Sky Sports propers, the stream that I watch has like this little dancing cat in the corner every time something kicks off. And so, although I have pay no attention to what's going on in the chat or anything, I can always tell when there's trouble brewing because this little dancing cat appears in the top right corner of the stream, just ducking its head back and forth. And I'm like, oh, Bottas is being overtaken or something. So, yeah.
So Wodge doesn't play the games, he just watches us. Probably wise, mate. It saves you a fortune. He does wonder if the two of us would grow into a serious rivalry in co-op career mode. I'd like to find that out as well. I mean, co-op career mode is something I've been asking for a long time, because it's always annoyed me that when I play through this with Simon, it's one season only, and there's no car development. There's nothing going on, which I think would really spice things up. But hey ho, we'll see what they deliver, I guess.
Imagine having both of us bring our own team to the grid with a B driver, a secondary driver, and then having to do car development alongside. That would be the ultimate Stiffy dream for me.
Yeah, just you saying that, Stiffy activated. Yeah, your team versus my team. I think that would be really, really good. God, I hope we can do that. But you're right, like all these modules of the game always seem like they're developed in total isolation by people who've never been in the same office but described what they're doing over the phone to each other.
Yeah.
So nothing kind of connects up or makes sense, and they do something and then drop it for 2 years and then bring it back.
As a new feature with a slightly different kind of slant to it, but actually it's just re-giving us back stuff that we've had taken away. The one thing I will say, though, and it's interesting for this one, because do you remember the jump between PS3 era to PS4? So this would have been 2014 to 2015. They'd spent all this time adding in all of these features between 2010 to 2014. So that you had, like, classic tracks would come in, then you'd have classic cars, and then 2014, the big thing there, bizarrely, was do less races in a season. Okay. And then when it switched over to the PS3 kind of beginner era, all of those things got removed, and then it spent years kind of rebuilding it back up as a new platform baseline again. With this whole kind of dual PS4 to PS5 era where... you essentially, if you upgrade your console, you get your upgraded copy of the game, which is great, and a lot of EA games have done that, and I really approve of that. They're not able to strip things out again and do that again, so they have to be consistent across the baseline of, actually, we've got to carry all of our content with us, and that is one of the few positives that I have for this kind of generational hangover, even though I'd argue that actually this generation is probably arguably the weakest step up or change of content I can ever have thought of so far, because nothing has actually made me go, I want a PS5 yet.
I don't know, some things have for me, but I agree with you. I mean, it's not like a monster step up, although, I'm pretty sure there's a lot to come from the hardware once developers don't feel so hamstrung by the size of the PS4 market. I mean, if you could actually buy PS5s, that would probably help. But my suspicion is that either 2022 or 2023 will be PS5 only, and then there'll be a big step up in physics, in graphics. Maybe even we'll get lucky and get a new engine. Because, I think 2021 will definitely be an iteration because it has to work on the PS4. And there'll just be like a high-resolution texture pack for PS5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure it'll actually be that much different.
No.
But I'm excited for that because, I enjoyed 2014 very much because that was when they first added real physics. Do you remember? Like, the game didn't have proper physics before then. And then all of a sudden they were showing off, look, the suspension moves.
Yeah.
And for me, like, it was a huge step up in how much I enjoyed the game. So, I'm already looking forward to the game that comes after the one I haven't played yet. But anyway, I guess we will wait and see what they deliver. I'm not happy with my lap. Only good enough for P3.
Boo.
But I did lose some time almost spinning it at turn 4. I think it is turn 3.
Yeah, it looked a mini clonk. Though, one last thing I'm also slightly annoyed with is release date versus readiness of the game. And this is just a pet peeve that I have in general. If you haven't built the 3 new tracks yet, which you'll be selling as your main feature, or one of your main features of the fact that you can race these tracks later, don't release the game. Since I've never known of another sport that releases its game with even like part of the main content missing. And I appreciate that it is lockdown and it's been pandemic and it's been very difficult. But Portimao and Imola, they already have from other franchises that Codemasters looks after and runs. So you already have the source material. Don't give me that shit, basically, of, the world. The world has nothing to do with it. This is around meeting specific deadlines and topics and sprints in kind of tech crunching rather than and ultimately bottom dollar of money rather than actually putting out a fully finished, fully fledged product that does what it's actually supposed to say on the tin. That really annoys me. Jeddah I can understand a little bit more, but Portimao and Imola, absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be in that game.
Honestly, I don't care if Jeddah's not in there because it looks shit. I'm already
shitter than Texas. America 2.
Oh god, yeah. We've got so much to complain about in this episode. It's the Grumpy Old Man episode. Also, I realised two things. One, you are still fucking untouchable on this track. I mean, literally untouchable. And I ran my hot lap on lean fuel mix, so let's try not doing that now. It's amazing what not being a dickhead can do for your lap times. So, shall we get into real F1 stufferoonies? Because we had a pretty phenomenal Grand Prix at Imola.
Yes, we did.
Although, one thing I would like to say at the start as a qualifier, like, entertaining does not mean necessarily that what was on show was good. I think it was just unpredictable, because I was surprised at seeing 20 of the best drivers in the world make such a tit of it continually.
Ah.
No, but really, I mean, if think about how many mistakes we saw over the course of that weekend. From all teams, all drivers, like these are the highest paid professionals they're supposed to be, with the exception of, you know, Latifi and Mazepin. They're supposed to be the best drivers in the world, right? That should mean they know how to race the cars that they're in. But I mean, Sainz recovered very, very well, and we'll get into his race in a bit. But I mean, he was dropping it all over the place. Charles Leclerc dropped it. Verstappen dropped it a few times. Both Mercedes dropped it. Yuki Tsunoda dropped it several times.
Alonso.
Alonso too. Vettel had another fucking nightmare. Then you've got Aston Martin threatening to sue the FIA for changing the rules.
Biggest paddy waddy ever over. I love how. I almost want to have Lawrence Stroll in one of those like political cartoons where it's like a baby in a little pram with a dummy and everything, and like Otmar Zafnau is like a rag doll that he's just throwing around, being like, "Puppet me, bitch." Yeah.
I want Lawrence Stroll to be the voice of my satellite navigation, and I want him to consistently reject the scandalous idea that he's copied his directions from Google Maps. Like, get really angry about it. No. First of all, just let me get your feedback on that. First of all, like, how do you feel about that analysis? Do you think I'm being overly critical? Do you think the weather, like, this is the first time in changeable conditions in these cars? Am I just being an arsehole, or is it fair to say that it was sloppy from most of the teams and drivers?
I do think it was a bit sloppy. Oh, yellow flag. Is that? For me, there was an element of schlop. And I think that is down to a couple of things. One, you had changeable conditions on an old school track that doesn't let you automatically take to some tarmac runoff. And hurrah for that, because what did it throw up? Unpredictability, getting beached in a gravel trap for a lap, and refusing to get out again. When was the last time we saw that? Lewis Hamilton again, Nürburgring, old school track, 2007. Big up the Winkle. But you've got... I think what it done was it completely showed how modern day tracks and the way how they're put together let you get away with blue bloody murder. And Imola does not. And so because it pinches everyone hard, it shows up exactly who understands where the limit is, reaching it, staying there, being confident with your car. And it was largely newbies, people who are overdriving or have never been used to old school tracks before that threw it off the road, or people new in teams, I think, where that confidence struggles.
Yeah,
largely.
Yeah. I think that's fair. For me, it was just a bit disappointing because also they touched on something else there, the issue with track limits. And we'll talk qualifying in just a moment. But again, best drivers in the world, the number of them that can't keep the car on the track is shocking. Oh shit, I've been pipped by Max Verstappen at the last second.
No. And also, just for the Mazepin lols, if you've been penalised for track limits, don't ask them to go and check the camera again, because they'll just see you're incompetent driving at the same time, mate. Track limits. We was bitching about this after Bahrain, and I'd hoped that Imola would largely not have that issue because, you know, gravel everywhere. So if you're going to get it wrong, then the penalty is severe enough. But you're right. The only corner that they've actually tarmacked the bloody thing, where was everyone? Off in the tarmac, because they know that they can. And it's that kind of arcade mindset of it all, which I think also played into a lot of the huge accident that we'll get into later as well, is that arcade mindset, because you don't have the... It's not that you don't have the danger factor, but that danger factor is mentally negated when you've got 3 miles of tarmac everywhere.
Yeah.
It is in my head anyway.
No, I mean, I completely agree. But the thing is, like, first of all, even though the whole Lando Norris thing broke my heart, and we'll touch on that again in a moment, I was at least happy to see consistency from the stewards.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure reversing onto a racetrack is not allowed under the fucking rules. But he who must never be punished did it, so so it's fine.
It's another rule grey area, having also looked that one up.
Yes.
but yeah, it's that open to interpretation bollocks, alongside giving everyone their lead lap, their unlapped lead lap back, which I've been slightly annoyed with for quite a while, but kind of throws up sometimes a really good thing and then sometimes not a good thing as well.
Yeah, no, I hated that because it put him from last to 9th, didn't it?
Pretty much, and then it was, and then it is not a go and get a lap back. That then gets him up to 2nd. And he could have still overtaken all of those people and then still been 9th anyway. Maybe it's a bit artificial, but I would, I've never quite seen the logic in that, especially when they aren't exactly in an age of fuel management and less around engine maps now, because that's not that you can't change that. But he's now got an extra lap of fuel that he can then boost on more than everyone else, so I think that intrinsically gives you a bit of an advantage potentially.
Yeah, it does. There's so much to dive into here. Before we start the race, let's just talk really quickly about this track limits thing. So, a number of drivers, in fact most of them I believe, had laps deleted from qualifying, and for some that was really quite severe because it prevented them escaping the early qualifying sessions.
Yeah.
So So, I mean, I think really the big losers in qualifying actually were the Alfa Romeos, whose race pace demonstrated they had more to give at that circuit, but could never seem to get things right somehow. The Alpines as well qualified very, very poorly. But for me, there were two standout stars in qualifying in the form of Nicholas Latifi.
Yes.
And Lando Norris. Because, well, first of all, it was nice to see Latifi look to have the number of George Russell, at least briefly. But also, it was nice to see he's capable. Like it feels more and more like he deserves to be in Formula One. You know, he's got a terrible car, but you know he isn't finishing behind the Haas's. He isn't finishing. Well, actually, he isn't finishing at all at the moment. But but you know he's finally unlocking some pace, and his racecraft was always kind of okay. It was just it didn't seem like he was comfortable in the car. But I mean, I don't think anyone would really be comfortable in that car. Yeah. And then Lando Norris, because even though he made that mistake, what was clear is that he and that car together had the pace to be on or close to the front row, for sure. And I think his race result was fully deserved on merit. So those were the sort of standout stars in qualifying for me. The donkey, really, I would say, would be Yuki Tsunoda. Obviously, he's still a rookie, but for the first time in my life, I agreed with something Helmut Marko said, which was that he's been a bit cocky.
It's very aggressive.
Now, well, we like aggressive, but cocky is a good description, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if you've seen this new segment, but every weekend now, Formula One takes questions from kids.
Yes.
And I actually really love that segment. You have to watch it, mate. Really, it's excellent. The reason is that they ask the questions that journalists don't. And journalists ask the same question every week, and the drivers get bored and we get bored because it's always the same answers. Whereas most of the drivers seem actually to be really happy to be answering questions from kids. And, you know, I really do want to know, if you could be an animal for a day, which animal would Sebastian Vettel be? Yeah. I think that's like that's serious F1 journalism. It turns out he'd be a dog. Who would have guessed?
Oh, little puppy Seb.
Yeah,
hi, everyone
he
in
wants
the chat,
to be a
by the
dog
way.
for a day, and who wouldn't? So, anyway, it came. There was a question from an Italian boy, and it was asked to Yuki Tsunoda and Gasly as well, I think. And it was, how did you feel when you learned you got a Formula One drive, right? And to me, that's a really good question, because no one ever asks the drivers that. You know, where were you when you found out? And what does it feel like, you know, for the very first time to come into Formula One? And Yuki's answer was, just normal. I was expecting it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like for him, he really said it was like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, I'm sorry, mate, but it is a big deal. There's only 20 seats. It's the top of your sport. You've only had 100 race starts. How could you not possibly be excited about driving a car that incredible and one so well engineered? It looks really like it should be at the sharp end of the grid, but you and your teammate just can't seem to get the performance out of it consistently. And, you know, especially when you're talking to kids as well, the kids who look up to you and maybe want to be F1 drivers themselves one day, like, even if, you know, maybe you are quite a quiet character or whatever, like, hype it up for the kids. Don't be a prick.
That is interesting, though, because, I mean, I know Japanese culture is a little bit more chilled, relaxed, demure, understated sometimes, which is not necessarily how their media portrays everything as you go along. But it's interesting that, this is where I side, not very often, but I will side with the likes of Lewis Hamilton's and your Daniel Ricciardo's and Lando Norris's and all of that kind of stuff, where you're ambassadors for the sport, for motorsport, for people looking up to you, and that is where injecting all of that enthusiasm and commitment. I mean, how many people maybe now have just gone, oh, so that wasn't like a career-defining moment or something that reaffirmed all of your life choices then, was it? So I'm now less interested or less invested, perhaps? Don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, you and I trading fastest laps there. I had to turn my fuel up to get in DRS range of you. DRS is something else I want to complain about in a little bit, but let's stay on topic. Yeah, and I completely agree. It's something also that Jenson Button was always very good at. Like,
yeah,
you're an ambassador for the sport, and I don't mean that in the corporate sense. I mean it in the same sense as you. That, you know, it's partly your job to bring new fans in, especially now we don't have Murray Walker to bring fans in.
Yeah,
you've got to be the enthusiastic one. You've got to say this is the best fucking job in the world. And you know, that's something I used to like about Romain Grosjean when he entered the sport. You know, I know he became grumpy in his later career, but when he first arrived at Lotus on his second thing, you know, and he had some bad races or some crashes or whatever, and DC was interviewing him on the BBC, and I'll always remember it. And he said, "So you must be feeling pretty down." He's like, "Well, no, this is my dream job, and I'm getting a second chance to do it. A bad day at the office is still a good day."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes, that's the right attitude." I was feeling like I was going to catch you.
Oh.
But then I fucked it in one of the corners. So, you know, that's what you want to see, right? You want to see them big up the sport, not always bash it. I mean, sometimes you're going to have criticisms against the sport you partake in. Of course you are.
Yeah.
But when you're being asked by a child, you know, it's a big deal. Let it be a big deal.
Yeah.
For the kids.
Give us some magic back in this post-apocalyptic shit world that we live in.
yeah, no, precisely. And then, you know, after the Grand Prix, when Marco said, Yuki's very talented, but he's cocky, I suddenly knew what he meant, because I'd seen that little glimpse of his character come out.
Mm-hmm.
My other complaint about Yuki Tsunoda, because I want to be a big fan of his, is that he's fucking incomprehensible.
What you mean?
Well, behind his mask, with his tone of voice, and he all the time, I find it really hard to understand what he's saying. Like, his English is excellent. I'm not criticising his ability to speak English. I'm saying, like, his diction is awful, and the masks don't help. But he has a lot of, like, ers and and doubling back in his sentences and everything. Like, he needs some media coaching.
Yeah, and that'll come from someone who, when you're only 100 races in, you're so young. If you do have a kind of streak of cocky mentality, you think that your awesomeness will get you by, but actually it will get you shot down in flames when people start to turn. And I mean, you're always that old adage of you're only as good as your last race, or the last apex I attempted to hit, by the sounds of it. The big thing here is that he went from hero to... Sorry, I thought he was coming up the inside, so I went wide.
I was tempted. This is what I was talking about in the last episode. 12 years nearly, and we still don't know how to race each other.
You're going through.
You are faster than me, though, for sure. So this isn't going to last. Oh, no, a race is happening. No, when will we learn?
I'm not going to
I'm
Alex
gonna watch
Albon
that.
this.
I'm going to watch that back on the replay because God only knows what that looked like. Two grown men terrified of each other.
This is basically what happens when a straight man goes into a gay bar and sees someone look at them. Ah! Sweaty pants time.
Oh,
Okay.
wow, look at this. I've made it. I'm getting spam in my chat from bots. This is awesome. Hi, bots.
You've truly made it now. Oh, I'm running
Do
wide.
I want to buy some followers? No. No, I don't.
Hey Sam Kid, by the way, sorry, I will look at what you've said. I can see that you're typing, but I can't actually read it because I'm getting competitive. We don't need a co-op career mode now. It's games on, bitches.
We need a rivalry career mode. The thing is, though, you should be able to get past me because I've used all my extra fuel and my battery trying to catch you. Right, I have to be more aware of you now, so I don't make a dick move on you. Oh God! I'm actually going to upload this replay to Instagram because it's going to be good.
It's pretty much how close the two Alpines were all Imola Grand Prix. To be fair, hats off to Ocon for that.
Yeah, that's the funny thing though, isn't it? You always say hats off to Ocon, no one ever says shit job Fernando.
Yeah. Oh, shit job for me trying to actually go around corners. Don't know what that was. When are you pitting, by the way?
I have no fucking idea, mate. Let me check my strategy.
And are you
screen.
one or two stopping?
2 stopping.
Okay.
Even though it's slower, I just don't want to touch the hard tyre. Between laps 10 and 15.
Okay.
But I am taking a lot out of my tyres because I've been racy. So I guess lap 10. When are you coming in? Oh, you cheeky.
Oh, shit.
It's alright. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. It was me. I turned to make the corner and ran into the side of you a little bit, so I backed out of it and then the car ran wide. We shall meet again.
We will. You've got a good race pace.
Are you 1 stopping or 2?
I hadn't decided. I'm down for a 1 stop, but I was going to switch to 2, I think.
Are you in this lap? Because you're in front, so now you get pit stop priority.
I will pit... when have I... Oh, God. Hang on. I've confused myself. 2 seconds. It's thrown me off. I didn't mean to hear you!
You didn't. I hit you. It was me. I didn't gauge my braking properly.
I will pit... this lap.
Are you Hamiltoning me right now? You're going to go, and then I have to watch and see if you turn into the pit lane.
I was Sonodering. Box this lap. I'm going to box this lap. Sorry,
the psychological games have begun.
Just call me George.
Right, this has to be a very good lap then, Ben. Luckily for you, you were so far ahead I didn't get the DRS down the pit straight.
I tell you what you might win with. I used an extra set of tyres in quali than you, so these are used softs that I've just had to stick on.
Ooh.
And I'm out.
Well, I'm
just
actually
behind
switching. I'm switching to mediums, so we're going contra strategy.
Oh, juice!
So what would be ideal for me is if I can get out before you get round, and then hold you up on the slower tyre, like the bastard I am.
Arr. Odin
Now
strategies.
we've forgotten now we're actually racing each other for the first time in a very long time. We've completely forgotten we're hosting an F1 podcast. So while I'm pitting, I'll try and get us back on. So why don't we dive into the race? I think we've milked qualifying for all we can for the major talking points. Obviously, there's always more to go into, but the race is only short.
Yes.
Right, let's see where we come out with each other. Have you gone through?
Just going through now.
Oh, it looks like it's going to be close. Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, you've beaten me. But I have gained on you.
You have.
Oh, this is actually a proper race now. This is entertainment. You're on the softer tyre. They're a bit older than mine. I've got the Durs. Oh no, I don't have... Why don't I have the Durs?
I think because you wouldn't have been a second behind me at the point.
Yeah, true. Right, I had to clear that pink car immediately to make sure you didn't ride off into the sunset. I'm actually really enjoying this. If all our races were like this... Because normally we're very closely matched on single lap pace. But our race pace... Well, actually, our race pace isn't often super different. It's just that usually one of us bins it.
Yeah, we're not normally next to each other on the road.
A fastest lap for you, sir, which I cannot match, so you've gained on me a bit there.
Oh, I've got a 3-second time penalty.
Oh, no!
Lol.
Oh, it's all to play for now.
There's me bitching about track limits, and I've just ruined it myself. Never mind.
So, I want to, quickly, before we get onto the race result, I want to talk about DRS at Imola, because...
Oh, yeah.
It was a clusterfuck, was it not?
Yeah, I think it was overpowered.
I mean, a bit overpowered I could live with, but I think it was astonishingly overpowered at Imola. And I'm just not sure why, particularly because we raced there last year, why that wasn't something that they considered.
And it was deemed to be underpowered last year, wasn't it? And I didn't necessarily agree with that, because for me, and Martin Brundle hit this well nicely on the head in the commentary, is that DRS should be able to put you in a position to then make the attack, but the driver should still be able to finish it off. And that was definitely not what the case was in Imola at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. And, you know, without DRS being so powerful, I think Lewis would have had a much harder time than he did.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
Okay, I cannot match pace with you on this stint. I've tried, I've drained my battery, I've burned extra fuel, but it's just not happening. These tyres are about 0.5 a lap slower, for sure.
It will come back to you, don't worry.
So I just have to make sure I stay within fondling distance of your luscious yellow rear. That when I'm on the fastest tyre at the end, it pays off. And obviously avoid picking up any damage. Or a penalty.
Which is what I currently have, so... Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. DRS, it needs sorting. It always seems to take a visit or two to get it right. I don't know quite how long Imola is planning to stay on the calendar for, if I'm honest. I don't think for very much longer, given how we've now got the announcement of the second American Grand Prix coming. I feel like it's Imola that will get the boot from the calendar, even once it gets up to the fabled 25 races. I just don't see it staying, so yeah.
I have never once hoped you are wrong as much as I do right now, because I have a real fondness for Imola. And I think it's given us 2 years of great races.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm with you. I'm the way
It's
how
Vietnam
it was.
that can fuck off for me.
Yeah, I don't think that will ever come back. Actually, I think that's gone for good. Especially now that it's emerged that there's some kind of scandal that's gone on behind the scenes with actually getting it financed and up and running. I don't think we will ever visit Vietnam at all. So that's good. It's just that they've replaced it with that absolute trash fest that is Jeddah, and then I'm looking at the track map of what is to come for Miami. I have zero expectation of that actually providing a good race or b a nice driving experience. It looks like they've taken mini parts from Sochi and kind of put it somewhere else in the world and tried to make it like an experience. We need to stop doing racetracks around other monuments. We need to actually realise that, ooh, Brotas, that was scary. We need to understand that F1 itself should be the spectacle. And to make it live up to a place where actually that being the main event can carry things along. I don't know if that's maybe me being a bit over optimistic. Don't know.
No, not at all. So Wodge has something to add regarding Imola.
Yee.
I hope Imola will change the view regarding tarmac next to the track. I think that's something Simon and I share with you. I mean, you and I have been saying there needs to be more use of gravel.
Yes.
I think the problem is, though, that the last few years, some of the front-running cars have actually been quite unstable and prone to instability and issues. And once a car beaches in the gravel, it's fucked. It's totally out of the race. And I imagine if we got rid of the tarmac runoff and brought in gravel again, it would be great in terms of keeping cars on the track and keeping the racing a bit cleaner. But there'll be 1 or 2 races that are ruined by a mistake where the car gets beached and people say, well, if there was tarmac there, he could have rejoined and the race would be back on. It's one of those things that, you'll never please everybody. But I'm in agreement with you, Wodge. I think we have got too used to driving on car parks, and it's not okay. And I also agree with you, Simon, that people don't attend a Grand Prix weekend for the view.
No.
Like, I don't care what world monument the track goes around. It doesn't make it a good track. It doesn't make it for a good race. I can buy a ticket to visit a monument. It's a lot cheaper than attending a Grand Prix weekend. Please sell me what I'm trying to buy.
Yeah. And it's about understanding. I feel like F1 is trying to pitch the tourism and commercial boards for various different cities and areas. But ultimately, you're pitching for a one weekend, one shot deal. And that's not going to necessarily kind of make a tourist attraction sustainable over the long-term future. And then the amount of money that you put in doesn't necessarily get recouped over that weekend unless you're expecting people to be like, oh, that was such a lovely venue for the race, can't wait to come back again. I just don't really think that is realistic or real.
No, me neither. Wodge said it's also good because it contains Mazepin to a gravel pit. And I agree, he should definitely be contained to the gravel.
Yes, indeed.
That's his natural habitat, as David Attenborough would say.
Wow, it says a lot when Mick Schumacher is able to spin on a straight, smash his front wing off, have to go 2 laps round, admittedly under safety car conditions with no front wing, come back out again, not be able to catch up to the safety car and start 40 seconds behind the rest of the field, and still nearly lap him in a race. Yeah. I mean, hats off to Mick Schumacher, and also, can I say hats off to Mick Schumacher's race engineer? That's how you engineer a rookie and how you talk people through things. And it's not from a team that I would expect that kind of arm round the shoulder mentality from either. So it's really surprised me and made me a little happy bunny.
No, it doesn't. You're right. Just to expand on your point there, because if Drive to Survive has taught me anything, I know Will Buxton always says, it's a tight-knit team at Haas and they're all best mates and everything, but all I see is them criticising each other and telling each other to fuck off. So,
yeah.
Tell him he does not smash my door. So, you're right. I thought the engineer did a stellar job. So, total agreement with you there. Speaking of almost being lapped by your teammate, I'd also like to touch on Bottas at some point.
Jesus Christ, yes. Should we touch on him now and then run away?
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Hold on, one thing though. Waj has a question. Do we think Tsunoda is a bit reckless?
Yes.
He's quick, so it's okay, but I don't like his temperament on the radio though. No, me neither. A lot of people have been complaining about his temper on the radio, actually.
I think that comes from what you were saying earlier, actually, as well. Arrogance.
Yeah.
Not arrogance, sorry, cockiness.
Yeah. So, yeah, I rate Tsunoda. He's been massively impressive, but he's going to get from us, I think, the same criticism we always gave Max Verstappen, and it turns out I'm starting to really like Max Verstappen. I like this Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this kind of reboot has been quite good in the Verstappen cinematic universe. I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah, he's actually likable because he's humble and he's patient and he's not trying to win the race at the first corner and he plays the long game and his racecraft has come along. And all those years you and I were really critical of Verstappen, this is because this is the driver we knew he could be.
Yeah.
Like, I've never doubted he's a once-in-a-generation talent. And when he came into the sport, I was super excited because I was a big fan of his dad. His dad drove for all my favourite teams. But he was just a bell end for the first few years. And that's why I was Team Carlos Sainz, which I still am. But like this Verstappen, if he wins the championship, I'm fine with that. I'm even starting to like Red Bull a little bit more.
Yes. My jury will be out until I can just to make sure that Perez is actually going to not succumb to the curse of the second Red Bull driver's seat, which after that weekend kind of fills me with intrigue, promise and dread all at the same time, especially when he spun at exactly the same point that Albon went off. I was like, oh no, don't do this to me, Sergio, no. But yeah, I'm sure that will sort itself out. But yeah, I'm liking it.
We'll come back to Red Bull because I do want to talk more about Sergio and Max. But we did say we were going to talk Bottas, so let's talk Bottas. So he was struggling in qualifying, and time was maybe 2-3 years ago. The gap that he had to pull would maybe have still been good enough for a front row start.
Yeah.
But the field is way too close, so I don't want to bash him necessarily too much over what happened for him in qualifying, because the field is so tight that 2/10 can be the difference between second and eighth. So we've never really been in that position before, but nevertheless he was massively off Lewis all the way through the weekend. His race was a bit sloppy, but it wasn't as mistake-packed as a lot of the other drivers, but his pace was consistently lacking, and he did not look comfortable in the car at all. Struggling in the dirty air. We saw other drivers struggle in dirty air as well. Lando Norris, for example, he was driving his heart out, bless his little cotton socks, but you could tell the car was not happy in dirty air. But he could work around it, firstly with the help of his team and teammate, which we'll also talk about. But needless to say, Bottas did not have a good weekend. And despite all the things that happened to Lewis, he was all but lapped by him and then got taken out by George Russell in one of the scarier accidents we've seen in the last years. Over 200 kilometres an hour, I believe.
Yeah.
The incident itself, it took a while for the world feed to get footage that was useful in determining what happened. Because initially, I was with the stewards, racing incident. And then I kind of thought it was George. Then I thought, okay, maybe Bottas did defend a bit too aggressively. But then I saw the on-board from Bottas, and then I went back to it being a racing incident. And I kind of agree with the stewards. It was a racing incident, I would say. Now, Big Daddy Toto Wolff got involved and said he was closer to putting George Russell into the Renault Clio Cup than he was into a Mercedes F1 car.
Yeah.
And basically the insinuation was that he was too aggressive in trying to get past Bottas because he was trying to prove a point and get into Bottas's seat for 2022, sorry. I actually think there's truth to that.
I agree. Yes.
There's no way it did not cross George's mind, like, hey, I've got a chance here to overtake Valtteri Bottas in a Williams. There's no way that... I mean, he had the pace to make the overtake, so then it comes down to, do you agree with Toto that he shouldn't have attempted the overtake? Because Toto's position was, he was racing a Mercedes, he should race differently than if it was another car.
And I disagree on that specific element.
Yes, me too.
And the reason why is it shouldn't matter who you're competing against. He is racing for Williams as a Williams driver under that contract. It doesn't matter if Daddy Toto is thinking about left, right and centre of the future. He's out there to do the best for that team. So no. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Williams as a team has been and is continuing to kind of rally against, because they don't want to be pulled further into that Mercedes umbrella, because then that means that they'll never be allowed to win. So
no. And that's actually something really encouraging from the new owners, actually, that they are keen to maintain that independence. I really approve of that, but please continue.
Yeah, no, that was all I was going to say, is that it's ramifications for all different types of things.
I mean, I just don't like to see Mercedes playing the sort of political games that Ferrari have always played.
Yeah. And
actually, I discovered something the other day, which I don't think you and I were aware of. But did you know that Mercedes had the power unit specs for 2014 leaked to them in 2012 by quote-unquote mistake?
No.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
There's something about this sport. There's always been a reek of corruption.
Yes.
There just has. So I'm going to have to get to the point here, because there's a race about to break out.
Well, you're winning because I've got a 3-second penalty.
I don't even have to make the overtake. That's good. Oh no, but that puts me in a position where all I have to do is not fuck it, which means I'm inevitably going to fuck it. But yeah, I don't want to see Mercedes pulling these strings the way that they do. And then, of course, you know, it gets a level deeper as well, because then Hamilton talks to the press and says, oh, Valtteri's my favourite teammate because there's no bullshit with him. Which basically means he does exactly what I tell him to. He's got no teeth.
Yeah.
And we know Lewis doesn't want to race with George. But George is exactly the sort of driver who needs to be in that second Mercedes seat, and Bottas is not doing himself any favours. He almost seems to have given up a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
he
this
says
is not
the right
Bottas
words.
4.0.
No.
I've forgotten how many times he's supposed to have relaunched himself back out there again with new firmware. But it's just, yeah, I agree. This has been the most quietest start to a season from Bottas for some time, as if the fate is already sealed.
Well, I can't tell if it's like a guy on death row just waiting for the inevitable, or it's like he knows his position is safe because Lewis will always fight his corner. Do you know what I mean? I can't tell if it's complacency and he knows that he's going to be there. He's got, because I mean, Toto seems to be very supportive of him as well.
Yeah.
You know, and he always defends him against criticism or anything. And I don't know if that's because Toto values having the harmony in the team or what, but
Oh yeah.
there's something that doesn't smell quite right. But regardless, I think George should have gone for the overtake, but he did it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
That's my nuanced position now.
I agree with that completely. And again, it's around that arcade new style of driving mentality where it's go and get that thing done straight away off the bat. Forget that there is a dry line, which I thought was a bit amateur-y hour, I must admit. And there was a whole race ahead where Bottas was not on the right pace. He was struggling anyway. They'd had several laps where they'd not been near a safety car in a battle of the Gasly train or whatever it was that was going on. And he was still there. So he was there genuinely on pace to begin with. He could have bound his time, or he could have finished right behind him in the standings, and then that would have said, my God, even that would have been a huge statement. Also
Williams really needed those points.
Absolutely. On a day when Alfa Romeo self-imploded with Kimi's bizarre penalty, which made no sense at all, yet the stewards had to do it because it was in the rule book, and Haas are just nowhere. That was such an own goal from both him and Latifi, to be fair as well. It wasn't their finest hours. So yeah. Interesting one.
Wodge asks, were the experienced drivers, aka the no simulator drivers, better last race? No. No, they weren't.
Oh.
Are imitating live. Roman Grosjean is out of the race. For fuck's sake, I hate this Delta.
Same.
He also says, I think everyone who switched to a new team struggled the most. I agree, with the exception of Pierre Gasly's race engineer, who forgot how tyres worked, and and kept him on the wet tyres even when it was demonstrably a stupid thing to do.
Look how quiet we've got.
It's going to get tense now because we both had time to charge our battery as well.
I only had a little bit.
And I'm determined that we're going to race each other clean. So I'm being careful not to make a dive bomb move or anything stupid. Do we think Vettel's stop and go should have been given earlier?
Yes, and actually,
yes,
I was debating this in my little F1 chat with people that I've got going on during the races, from some people that work in F1 itself, and I thought that there was a time limit that they had to declare of 25 minutes. and it was outside of that. But I didn't know if that was still a thing or not, so I'll have to kind of research that back up again. But beforehand, you had to declare within 25 minutes of the action that not that you was going to give the penalty, but that you had an interest, and I didn't see any of that.
So there was so much to talk about in this race that we're running out of time, and we've not even brushed the surface.
I know.
So, if I may, because we still got to talk about McLaren and Ferrari, I really want to talk about Aston Martin. Actually, now we've touched on Vettel. Lance Stroll, I thought, really showed his class this weekend. Several problems on his car that he managed exceptionally well for a strong drive into the points. So well done to him. He also, for my money, has the best helmet on the grid.
Yep, I'm liking the new design.
It's phenomenal. It's just a shame his team is full of crybabies at senior management level. Then let's talk...
Also, just before we dive off of Stroll, also how he managed those problems differently to Vettel. And I've not... The last time I remember seeing a team that was having like that kind of implosion on the grid was Stewart in the 1999 Australian Grand Prix. So, you're coming through.
Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Who's braver on the brakes?
I'm trying to leave you the room.
This replay is going to be classic.
Where are you? I can't see you, mate. I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Oh, you've got the dares, that's why.
Oh, you've gone unaccountably Geordie.
Love nudge.
This is terrifying. Fuck Ferrari and McLaren, we're having a race.
They did well.
The
They did well. No, two more.
They did do very, very well. Let's talk Ferrari first, because Sainz had a phenomenal recovery drive. Didn't look totally comfortable in the car, but it's only his second race there, so I think we can give him some license to fuck up while he's still learning the ropes at a new team. He managed a sterling recovery drive, and I think he still had more to offer. Ferrari saying they left disappointed from the weekend, but happy about feeling disappointed because it shows what the car's capable of.
Yeah.
I think Ferrari can be very proud of that weekend. Double points finish, very, very important for them to get back into the fight at the front, especially because AlphaTauri look a serious threat for third, but they're dropping too many points at the moment.
Yeah.
And Alpine's upgrades seem to help them on race pace, if not quali, so it's still all to play for. Now McLaren, Danny Rick struggled pretty much the whole weekend. He did in the end get the better of Norris in quali, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, once the lap was disallowed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got it here to the line. Because I've drained my battery, and so I can't catch you. But on race pace, he was, I wouldn't say embarrassingly off Norris's pace, but clearly and evidently not as competitive as Norris.
Yeah.
And as soon as the team ordered him to move over, he acquiesced, and he said after the race it was the right call. So I want to say big props to him. I think his pace will come in the McLaren, and I don't think there's any shame at all, especially in a season as tight as this one, of acquiescing to team orders. It doesn't make him a number 2 driver. It doesn't set a precedent. I think it's just eminently sensible.
Agree.
And Norris, what a revelation. That boy was on it all the way through qualifying, managed the changeable conditions superbly. Well done to you, sir. I think I could have got you if I had a few more laps, but very clean racing. And
well done to the win.
And I'm sorry about your penalty. Driver of the day, Alexander Albon. So, yeah, Lando Norris, superb. He beat himself up a bit too much, I think, for losing his lap in quali, and he was annoyed at himself about Lewis getting past him, but again, it was DRS. There was nothing he could have done. It was interesting, though, to see McLaren getting what seemed to be greater straight line speed out of the Mercedes unit than Mercedes themselves. But all in all, excellent weekend for him, and he is coming along leaps and bounds. I think Lando Norris has a championship in his future. I don't know if he'll be at McLaren, but...
Strong words. He's grown on me, actually, over time. I thought that he might be not a weak link, but I had a hierarchy of where I expected, like, the last couple of years of F2 drivers to be. And Norris wasn't necessarily in my top tier. He was in the next tier down, essentially. But with that, I think what's been really interesting, and maybe this is harsh on George Russell, because he's not had the ability to show the racecraft because the Williams hasn't been in a position to do so. But if you look at those two and where they've come in different levels of Formula One, and that team structure and the growth of where they've gone. I'm not saying that Russell hasn't grown and become a better driver at XYZ, but Norris was not around lack of speed. It was tentativeness behind the wheel in racecraft, and he's chipped away at that and got on and smoothed it out. And now that he's confident in that, he can focus on that last tenth or two, which I think makes the McLaren duo, alongside Ferrari for me, are the two strongest competitive, even lineups on the grid.
I agree. Wodge said there's actually quite some drivers worthy of a championship, which is quite fun to see. I hope McLaren can be a championship winner again. I like Zach and Seidel combination. Yeah, me too. Yes. Seidel is a revelation, and Zach realising he can manage the commercial side of McLaren very well, but he knows nothing about running the race team. A humble realisation to come to, but he made the right choice and he hired a team principal, and it's paying off. The thing is, though, I had a thought the other day, and while I like Zach Brown era McLaren, and there's something, and maybe this is controversial, do you think driving for McLaren is less prestigious than it once was? Because for some reason, like the silver McLarens under Ron Dennis that were like pinnacle of the sport, and this generation of McLaren, they feel like totally different teams, even though they're not.
I think if McLaren were winning, then the prestige would still be there. I would say that if Ferrari spent 4 years with a Honda-esque Ferrari at the back and then having some kind of meltdown in their aero team for half a decade. If you think McLaren haven't won since 2012, when it was part of that silver lineup and all of that kind of stuff, I don't know if maybe the opinion would change if that papaya livery was at the front winning again. And there was if it wasn't Mercedes, but it was McLaren and it was Ricciardo versus Norris for a title decider, I think that would make it iconic again.
Wodge is asking if I can host Lando Norris's stream. I would love to. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. Because I don't have my laptop with me. I'm managing the stream through the app, and the app is fucking useless. Do you know, Si?
I don't actually. Sorry, I'm even though I'm a Twitch affiliate, I'm completely amateur new to it, so it's something I need to get into. Just shouting through on my chat. Apologies, I didn't look at it during.
Yeah, please do. Please go through
the stuff. Sam Kidd, hi. How are you? We are good, thank you. Oh yeah, you sent your game for me for review. I have taken a look at it. I have not been able to capture gameplay, but I will do. Sam Kidd, Morco Marco. This is more of a prop. This sounds like a Chinese proverb. Unranked or ranked lobbies, there is always going to be the ones who crash when they realise there are better drivers than them. I feel like that's been pulled out of a Chinese prawn cracker.
It does sound like something Confucius would say.
Yeah.
Great driver, by the way. Only got one season, but he did all right.
107% roll. I tell you who's doing great in the championship, though, Mr. Zero.
I know.
Are numero uno.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right, does it? That's not how it's supposed to work.
We've got a hammy sandwich going on. Who misses?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that's something anyone wants to see.
He might do a rap about it, though. We'll see.
Right, let me see here. I've got Lando's stream open. Can I? There we go. Host Lando Norris. Yeah, I can do it for you, mate. I can do it. Attendance rating is it's treated like a league. So Simon and I are both S because we've done every race, and somehow S is above A. Well, I think that wraps us up. We didn't get to talk about everything we wanted to, but I still hope it was an enjoyable episode. Thanks for joining, Wodge, and for everyone over on Simon's stream. We are pathetically grateful and love you all. And hope you enjoyed the episode, even though we didn't quite get through everything we wanted to. What's going on for you this week, sir, before we wrap it out?
Yeah, plenty of reviews over on Higher Plane Games on YouTube. Lots of fun indie stuff, some point-and-click adventures, and also looking at a little bit of a sim racing-y style mini league event that I'm going to be trying to host and run, potentially around Circuit Superstars, because that video has done exceptionally well and lots of people have been chatting to me about it in comments and DMs looking for a little mini event. So watch out for that soon. How about yourself?
Probably not a huge amount this week, but next week we'll be back with Grand Prix World, and I am coming back to streaming. So as you know, I've been having some technical trouble, and I'm currently reworking my Streamlabs OBS stuff and already preparing for next season, because this season's already fucking over. And once I get that all working smoothly and not having to fix it on the fly all the time, then I want to come back to streaming, because I do enjoy it. I really like the live interaction, so that's on the plan. Anyway, thank you so much to all of you. Hope you enjoyed the race. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we love you all. Bye.
Bye. Also, number one and the number one constructor.